Hello, everyone. Welcome to Editor Experience Matters. Gutenberg can help. My name is Drew Gorton, and I'm presenting alongside with Tor Andre Gretland. We'll tell you a little bit about ourselves, but we'd love to actually start by hearing a little bit about you. If you go into the polls tab in Hopin, we want to know a little bit more about your experience with Gutenberg. So if you scroll and go to the spot, it'll say, my experience with Gutenberg is. One of the nice things about the virtual format is that we can actually interact with all of you a lot more actively, frankly, than we could if it was a live event. I wish I was there in Poland, but this is one way to make lemonade with our lemons, if you will, if there's the English expression. So while you're filling that out.
Yeah, and it would be nice though if people would say, hello in the chat, just to get going, and make sure that you all can actually see us and hear us. Can you?
Also, yeah. Can anyone see us? Yeah. So say hello to the rest of the people in chat as well.
Yeah, nice. Hello, Piotr.
Yay, thank you. That's reassuring. All right, and so while you're doing that, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Drew Gorton. You can tell because it says that right here. Once upon a time, I was a Drupal developer myself a long time ago, and then I became an agency owner and went on to use, and build all kinds of things for fancy organizations and such. You can find me on the internet at dgorton in most places. And when I'm not doing things like this, I enjoy languages and travel and cooking, and I'm into all kinds of nerdy things like science fiction and board games and other things like that.
Yeah, so, great.
That's about me. Tor Andre.
Yeah, my name is Tor Andre Gretland. I'm in Frontcom, an open source focused digital agency spread across Europe. Our head office is in Fredrikstad, Norway, where I'm currently located. And we're about 70 people working on digital projects from strategy and design to, implementation and maintenance and so on. We do a lot of Drupal, but being open source focused in general makes us good at choosing the right tech for the projects that we do. And it also gives us a lot of knowledge on the challenges and how they're handled different in open source communities. And that's how we found Gutenberg in the first place, actually. We were trying to find and build, if needed, the best editor and landing page builder on the market. But, well, as it turns out, we didn't have to, Drew, because we found Gutenberg, and basically, of course, there's work related to it, but we're now maintaining the Drupal Gutenberg module, and this is what we're here to talk about. So, and I see that I can see that some of you are answering in the chat here, but it would be great also if you would actually go in the poll. There should be a separate tab, which is called polls, and yeah, we are actually getting votes in.
And so, can you see the results? Because I only can see the questions actually. Because it'd be great right now if we could. To share the results with everyone, and that will help us as we talk to know about your level of experience.
Yeah, I had to reply myself, so I did that, and maybe if you do that also, Drew, you'll get some votes there.
Got it.
So basically, 35% have heard about Gutenberg, 14% Guten curious. And 42%, 50%, oh, it's increasing, have actually used it. And there is actually 10%, 11% that is very skeptical. No others. Oh, yeah, maybe. Tell us more in chats. Maybe that's exactly what people did last there. Okay. Yeah, good. So let's move on. And feel free to ask questions. We'll try to follow that in chat as we go as well. Okay. So a couple of years back, we got a client that were already on Drupal. They've done a large Drupal project with an established Drupal company in Europe. And we don't know the exact numbers, but the project was between $200,000 and $1 million, that kind of size project. And when we looked at that, we saw a proper Drupal setup with lots of complexity, logic, and flexibility, but only one problem. The client just couldn't use it. That site was built on paragraphs. The site was very complex, and the amount of nested field sets just became very difficult to navigate. And their head of marketing said something like, I have years of CMS experience, and I've been working here for 6 months now. My boss tells me to create content, but I'm just not able to do it. And this company, they had about 100 editors worldwide, and none of them were actually able to do what they wanted to do on the website. Here you can see a quick scroll through. Look for that blue save button in the bottom. Then you know when it restarts the GIF here. So basically, we saw that what they had in the back end was very different from how it looked in the front end. So we talked to our client, we sat down and said, the content creation needs to drastically improve. And they replied something like, yes, we agree. But we're just not right, not sure if Drupal is the right thing for us. I mean, did we do the right choice here? So we gave them a demo of Drupal Gutenberg, where we could show their kind of content in a visual context. And we really got wow responses. If this is Drupal, then I can like Drupal. Those kind of things.
Yeah, and actually, I want to stay on that slide for just a moment. So I think while Tor was talking, the animation played. I think it only makes its way to the bottom like once or twice and all of that. And I think, for all of us, I wish I could say all of us would look at that and say, I would never build a site like this. I've never built a site like that. That's just too much. But I think if we're honest, many of us know how you can get to this result, right? And maybe have built something close to it. I'll also tell you, actually, Tor, we actually recently had some research. I haven't even shared this with you yet. I was going to mention this, but that I just forgot until this on the screen. We've been asking. So Pantheon has hundreds of thousands of websites, right? There are a lot of people using Pantheon. And we've been doing polls of people who are running Drupal 8 and Drupal 7 and kind of, what are your plans and what's, one of the pieces of feedback that our research team has heard is that a lot of people, a lot of customers, a lot of the marketing departments who use Drupal today are really frustrated with Drupal's editing experience and are not sure that they want to continue with Drupal. And that wasn't a question we were asking. That was just something they heard so many times. They said, this is a key finding. We should be aware of this. And of course, I talked to our research team. I said, well, you should know. There's some solutions for that as well. And Gutenberg is one of them, can be one of them. So it's real. People leave Drupal because of this interface being too complicated to know what it is you're making and what's going to happen. So let's talk about what Gutenberg is. So who's using it? These stats actually are just a little old, like maybe a month old or something like that. The numbers will be a little bit different today, but you can go check them yourself. The point here,
we can assure you they're higher, not lower.
Yeah. So this is millions of installations, millions of posts. Hundreds of thousands of them were created yesterday. So Gutenberg is the editing interface for WordPress. It is already quite good. It's continuous development. It first rolled out 3 or 4 years ago. It's been around for a while. It's open source. It's very enjoyable to use. We'll see a demo. We'll show it to you, and it works well. It's not. It is trustworthy software at this point in time. It's heavily used and actively developed. So let's take a look. Let's actually just look at what what it's like.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what is it exactly? Let's give you a short demo of how we could use Gutenberg. Okay, so there. Okay, so here I have a simple basic page content type, creating new content and opening Gutenberg here. I start by adding some title there in the top. And then I set that to be an H1. I hit enter and I paste some text. I can select it and make that bold. I could increase the text, the font size. And then by pasting some more text here, I can just go in up to that. In between some paragraphs, I can add some more content. I want to add an image here. So I just pull that in and you can see that it's gray, it's loading, and then it's finally there. So I can choose the alignments for that if I want it on the right-hand side, for example, just removing some spacing. And you can see the small little, the blue dots there, which makes the image draggable, so I can make it smaller if I want to. I have a caption field, so I can write some caption title for it down here. Some nature for y'all. And here below, just click it there. And then I can start here by typing a forward-leaning slash. And that will start a live search. So when I start typing gallery here, for example, you see that that turns out as the only option. Then I can just anytime hit enter when that's my priority. So making a gallery, I just select a few photos here. And after I've done my selection, I just hit select. And you can see that it comes in the editor with a nice styling. I can move them back and forth. I can choose how many columns I would like to have. So 4 makes sense here. I could go down to 2 if I want to, or even down to 1. But of course, as you see, it will bloat my view a bit. So I'll go back to 4 for the example here. And yeah, I can start typing some text here below. And another nice feature here is that I can take this little text paragraph and convert that into, for example, a quote. The minute I do that, you see that I get appropriate styling for it and a new field for saying who is saying this. Who is this quote from? Let me, yeah, there. Okay. Now I can take this and drag and drop it up and down as I would like. But normally in real life, I use the arrows instead. It has a very nice feature of following the focus of the block that I'm moving. So it's very easy to, you know, move it up and down. So it makes sense. Okay. That's a short start to it. And I can just say that, okay, I know that some of you are thinking, okay, I would never let my authors into something that gives this much flexibility. I mean, we obviously don't want people to choose their font size or font color for text in an article as they would like or choose themselves. But this is a demo. We're showing everything here, but in real life, when we start to implement this in new projects, we strip it down to a minimal solution according to the design guide and design manual, and then we build it out according to their needs. So the kind of flexibility we're showing here, well, we hardly ever do that unless, you know, in some very particular cases where the people working with the content are actually also the designers of maintaining the content. Yeah, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you. And there's a little bit of, so it's awesome. Thank you for joining us in the chat if you're talking there. I just want to mention Vasil, I may pronounce your name wrong, but mentions like the problem with Gutenberg is that it's all in the body field, and not necessarily is the answer. Actually, you can put all of these things into fields, which really makes for that powerful visual editing interface that our users would like, our editors, our content creators would like.
Yeah.
and also keep the information separated in fields the way that Drupal, that's one of Drupal's powers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can have both. What
Yeah.
ends up happening in Gutenberg, just if you're technical, is the layout or the information is stored essentially in a structured format, kind of like JSON, but it's using HTML comments, right? So like if you're not opposed to using JSON to store information, you shouldn't be opposed to using Gutenberg to store information, right? So it says start of heading, end of heading, start of image, end of image, and you can take all of that and can parse that and put that into fields. And that's one of the things that we can talk about in this session.
Yeah, we can get back to that.
Yeah. So
we'll
talk. That's what the next poll is about, actually. It's like choosing which adventure we're going to take for more information. But I'm ahead of myself. So websites have a job to do, right? And that's been on the screen for a little while. I think this is something we all need to remember. And they are a co-creation of designers and developers and the people visiting the site who are interacting and doing things, and the content creators and the person who owns the results. And so when I say the websites have a job to do, it's something like this, right? They have to, more revenue or leads or, reaching different users, etc. But none of these things is accomplished by designers alone, by developers alone, by content creators alone, right? It is a team sport. You have to be able to work together. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of for many of us, the lowest member on the team is the content creator with the default Drupal interactions, the default Drupal editing interface, or what we create, like that paragraphs interface. It's really obtuse, and it can be very scary for people. And unfortunately, the content creators are also the people who own the budgets. So over time, those are the people who are hiring us. And if we don't give them a nice interface, we don't get to keep working with them. I think it's that simple. And we certainly see that with the feedback that I see from, again, thousands and thousands of different customers, hundreds of thousands of websites. We're seeing this feedback, and I'm sure, anyways.
Yeah, and what we say then when we try to sell this, to implement it, well, if you have ambitions, if you want your people to perform great, well, you don't give them old and outdated tools like this, right? You cannot really force people to do an excellent job. You can force people to do a job, but you can't force them to do an excellent job. They just gotta love it. So what we typically do then is, to provide a nice work area, a good culture, some nice colleagues, and the tools that they need to get the job done. And that total package, that ambience, is an excellent place to grow and focus. Okay, so let's look at the job ad. For example, this one. Okay, we're looking for a journalist, senior, delivering world-class content. Send us an application if you have editorial judgment, you master digital platforms, and you're mastering content production and nurturing Drupal. So what's wrong with this job ad? Well, in Drupal, it should be easy. If you're looking for great world-class journalists, it doesn't really matter if you come from the WordPress regime or some other preparatory system or Drupal. That shouldn't be a requirement. But today, I'm sure it is for some companies. Drupal should be the most user-friendly enterprise CMS. Drupal should simply be easy to use for newcomers. And this is what we see actually when we take this out to potential clients and the experience they have when introducing the Gutenberg editor are actual quotes like this. We want this now. Drupal needs this. Wow, things evolve. This is excellent. And so on. But okay, Drew, it's time for some user involvement. We have a few things to talk about. A few things that we could talk about.
Right. So let's go to the second poll. So we're gonna show you what each of these things are, but this is the part I mentioned already. We have the opportunity to, again, do the thing that is most interesting and useful to you who are watching today. So we have 4 different next sections that we can do. The first one is about layout templates with field mapping. So actually having your H1 become its own field. We can talk about that. We can talk about how to get started with custom blocks. Oh yeah, so right, thank you. We can like the actual so yeah, so this is how we like this field maps to this field, or this kind of content maps to this field. That's the first thing we can talk about. The second thing we can talk about is a little bit more development specific. Getting started with developing custom blocks. The third thing we can do is show how to integrate and implement views in Gutenberg. It's actually really quite simple. It's pretty powerful, but that's another, again, one of those really powerful things in Drupal. And it's pretty cool. It's very straightforward to do in Gutenberg. And then the fourth one is just how to get started. So those are the 4 options. If you go to the polls tab up at the top, tell us which one do you want? And we will do that next. And I'll let those results go in. But I will say, while the results come in, so as you're thinking about this, and again, considering maybe using this in a project, I would say it's not something you have to use. My ask of you is that you try it, maybe on your own personal site, maybe for just one content type. It doesn't have to be, every site, every content type from now on. But I would challenge all of us to just try this. It's actually really simple. If we choose the how to get started, you'll discover that if you know how to download a Drupal module and turn it on and configure it very, very minimally, you can get started in less than 5 minutes. It's pretty straightforward to start. And then you can enable it on a content type and just try it. Maybe if you want to just try it for yourself, put it on your own site. If you have a client, if you have a customer that is asking you for a better interface, maybe you could try it with them with one content type. I think you might be surprised with the results. Speaking of results, Stranded, what do we have?
Yeah,
what's the
actually,
winner?
it's tied for now. We have almost 32% on both how to get started, installation, and first article, and the second one, how to get started with custom blocks. And layouts, field mapping is also getting more attention. But then, I mean, since we have some time available, I think then it totally makes sense to start with how to get started with implementation and installation, and then we can see what we have time for after that.
I like it.
Okay, so let me just move to let's go for demo.
And
we have had.
While Tor's starting this, I just want to mention I'm starting to see questions show up in the chat. And so to help us, if you could please put questions in Q&A, we'll make sure we answer them. So Vassal has a question about Drupal and WordPress differences in components. The answer, they can be shared. But so Andre, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I got some help here, obviously, from Pantheon, to set up a nice demo sites for me. Now, this is just a clean installation of Drupal. So I'm just going here to the extend page, and I've just installed Gutenberg here like any other module. So I'm just searching for Gutenberg. I can find that in my list, and I'll just install it. And as you can see here, as a little comment, I need to activate it on the content type edit page. Okay. So I'm starting here with clicking install. And let's see how that goes. Well, it's been enabled. So then I go to structure and I find not my comment types, but my content types. There we go. And it doesn't matter which content type, but let's use article now. I go to the edit page for my article content type. I scroll down in the bottom here. Yeah, if I had a wider view, you'd see that it's a tab here. Doesn't really matter. I will go to Gutenberg experience and I click Enable Gutenberg Experience for this article content type. I have a template field. We might get back to that actually, which this is where we set up a fixed layout for a content type and even do mapping. We'll get back to that. I'll leave it blank for now. And I'll go down here to allowed Gutenberg blocks. Gutenberg comes with a bunch, as you can see, of standard Gutenberg blocks that you can build content with. I'll just also keep this for now. And I can even add regular Drupal blocks as a part of Gutenberg. So that could be everything. Yeah, you probably recognize some of the standard Drupal blocks here, for example, powered by Drupal, breadcrumbs, things like that. And you also get a list of views, view blocks, basically. So let's try to activate that recent content standard Drupal view block as well. So now I just save my content type. And to be sure, I did use the article content type, didn't I? Yes, I think so. I'll go to content, add content. I want to create an article. And as you can see, it starts loading. This is Gutenberg loading, and I'm all set. My test article. And then I can just here simply start typing. This is my heading. Oh. There we go. And then I can, this is just regular text now. So I can just confirm that to a heading. Convert, sorry. This will be my H1. I can hit enter here and typing some more text, or I can start with that forward leading slash as we talked about earlier. So if I start typing image here, for example, I get those blocks. Let's go for an image. I could go for the media library here and just use one of these existing images that we have here that we saw in the demo earlier. I can then also do the same, and I know that I activated this, recent content. It's coming up here. So if I start typing that, or if I had other views, I could just actually start typing views. It will live search for that. And I can just hit enter. And you can see that on this demo site, it actually loads other articles while editing here. So these are some other articles that I created for test purposes earlier. Once this is done, I can just hit save. And you'll see that my article is created with my images, and it even loads the same kind of articles here. That is, yeah. And that is it, actually. I could go in here also and show you a couple of other nice treats. For example, if I just want to delete my image there, let's try the cover block instead, which works a bit in the same way. Let's use another image there as a background. And this has a, some text on an image. And then I could say that, some of it should be bold, all of those kind of things. I can even add a link to it if I wanted. And then also I could go in here and, change focal point. You can see that it updates on the fly. If I scroll further down here, I could also choose what kind of color I would like to have on top of my photo. You can see that the photo here is slightly darker. So if I switch that to another color, you can see that it works. And then I could, after that, go in and, go for the opacity and set that as I would like for this photo. Yeah, so it's these kind of things.
And some of you may be thinking, oh, that's an accessibility problem, giving too much, freedom, etc. All of the things, like this is just the default. If you want to lock the color palette, if you want to not make that option, that's all possible. That's where we as professionals can add better guardrails for our creators. But if you think about what that would look like, what this would look like in order for someone to know if they were using, say, paragraphs, you would nested field, type it, click save, look, oh, it's bad. go edit, you know, quick, and now this content is live and it's published and it looks bad, and then you would try again and try again and try again and try again, and maybe give up, maybe not, right? So, so Andrea, I'm looking at the poll results, and we continue to have time, and there are starting to be some questions, but I think just because it's close to what we already looked at, there are slightly more. There's one more vote for custom blocks, but just the layout templates with field mapping, it's so close to what we already did. I think we should go there next, and I'll look at the questions.
Yeah, for you said let's go for layout, field mapping.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're trying to do here is to basically take you know, those standardized Drupal fields and populate that with data from Gutenberg, basically. A typical example is that let's say that we have an article content type like we just showed, and we want them to look consistent. But we cannot predict if people will remember to put on, you know, appropriate blocks in the right order. We could, of course, give them a hint to future authors on how to write an article, or better yet, provide them with a guide or template of blocks that they should use. As you see here, you know, we have a featured image in the top, we have a leading paragraph, and we have a title and then some content below it. So let's see how it works in practice. I showed you this earlier, the template field on content types. And here I could go in and do exactly that. You can see here, this is a typical JSON format. On the documentation page for Drupal Gutenberg on drupal.org, you will find a couple of examples that you could copy paste straight into this one and, you know, go in and tweak. So what is highlighted here, you can see a core image. So this basically says that, you know, in the beginning here, we want to have an image. We want to use the core image field for this. And below that, we also have a small field called template lock. Do we want the editor to have this order of fields or this typical layout as a suggestion that they can override? Should they be able to, you know, move things up and down? Or should we lock all into positions and placings? Or do we want them to be able to insert in between? Those kinds of options. So that's just about defining the layout for the blocks that should be available for example, an article content type. Now also, let's see, what if we wanted this, the text field we have there, to actually populate data into a teaser field, for example? Well, it all happens in the same JSON field. You need to add a few extra parameters. You'll also find some help there on the standard field types in the documentation. But typically here you can see that the same fields are extended with some properties. This is where the magic happens. For example, we can look at the mapping fields attribute here. That is basically doing the work. The work. After that, you see that which field are we using anyway for this image? Well, it's called field image, and then we need some target ID and some other relevant attributes there. And that's basically it, actually. So after you've done that, when you've set this up on the content type, and then you go in and you click Add New Content, you will see placeholders. You will see the Gutenberg blocks added to the article, but without actual content to it. And you can also see that for the last part there, which is called Drupal section, and that's basically, in this case, this is just a custom block that we made earlier. And you can see here in the layout template that the placeholder text itself is also added straight into this. So it could be, for example, the text here, which says insert content. So that's what the user will see when they try to create an article like this. And to get going with this, there are some valuable resources. You would obviously go to the project page itself, drupal.org/project/Gutenberg, the module. And there you also find a link to the documentation, which will help you a lot. And actually, you could also go to the editor handbook on WordPress.org, developer.wordpress.org, to see how the thing is built there. If you want to try out Gutenberg right now, you could even go to DrupalGutenberg.org and find a demo link there in the header. So it's basically a /demo on that URL. Yeah. And I think that's about it.
We have, I think, 8 minutes left. We have, so again, there's a bunch of votes for custom blocks. There are also a couple of questions that I think can maybe have quick answers. So I'm going to propose that we answer the 2 questions that I see in the Q&A tab.
Mm-hmm.
So Tor, views and blocks, are they saved as a reference or HTML? Actual HTML in the content?
Good question. I mean, it's actually saved. Yeah, well, it will be a part of the HTML thing, but it is a reference. There will be some ID there to the actual view and the block, and yes, it's saved as a reference. So obviously, the minute you want to go in and update the thing that you reference, you want that also to be updated on the actual article or landing page, right? So yeah, it needs to be a reference, and it is. Mm-hmm.
Good. So that means you did it right. Go figure. Nice.
Yeah.
The next question is anonymous and it has some upvotes. Okay, so when should we not use Gutenberg?
Yes. First of all, we are now currently working on making Gutenberg fully entity agnostic, right? Currently, you're just, from our point of view, we're just using Gutenberg on nodes. But there is an initiative with some people working on also making it possible to use Gutenberg on other kinds of Drupal entities. So for now, I would say, okay, if you have a bunch of other special customized entities that you also need to add to the loop, well, then it could be good to avoid Gutenberg for now. And I know, for example, that we have had some questions from people that wanted to use, for example, group module and use Gutenberg to edit the groups. And I'm not sure if someone has found a simple way to work around that, but I know that I haven't been involved in projects, at least for now. Another case could be simply content types that doesn't really need what should we say, where the UI is not that important. You're not actually building visual content. It could be weird product data integrated with external product systems like PIMs and so on, which has 50 plus fields of measurements and so on, products, things like that. Where it could be simply easier to just stick to the fields, because there will be a lot of overhead for mapping and so on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if the data is something that you would see in a spreadsheet, if the information is kind of like a spreadsheet, like
exactly.
this field, and not thinking in paragraphs, like if your end result needs to be very highly structured data, then Drupal's great at that, right? The standard editors. But if you're creating something that's visual, if you're creating long format content, this is a pretty awesome tool. And I think you'll find that if you were to share this with your content editors, I think they might really be excited. All right,
And
we have one more question. Actually, just came in versus layout builder, but we also have the code editor. Like I feel bad. We're not going to get to all of these.
no,
I
we're
think
not.
I think we should choose one, and then just say if you want to follow up. Maybe we should put our emails or other contact information to continue discussion after the fact.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
there's some very, very interesting question just coming in here, though. Can existing sites be migrated from a traditional Drupal setting to Gutenberg? And it depends, of course, because traditional Drupal, I mean, one of the key features of Drupal is that it's so flexible. So what is a traditional Drupal setting anyway? But if you consider like the regular body field, then it's definitely possible. But you will, out of the box, probably meet some conflicts with content still. Maybe you'll meet a Gutenberg warning saying that, hey, this doesn't seem to be a Gutenberg block. But then Gutenberg has, the nice little feature where you could, click in the top right corner of that and say, try to convert this into a Gutenberg block. And if it's just a heading or if it's just text or something like that, it usually goes quite well. What's also very interesting about Gutenberg, if you're into custom blocks and so on, is that you're actually able to create within the React component for that Gutenberg block. You can create migration paths so that it understands what kind of markup that should be moved into this new format. When it comes to paragraphs-based sites, we also have some work in progress to handle that. That's slightly more complicated, at least to create a fully generic working solution for converting things from paragraphs and into Gutenberg. But we have a proof of concept for it, and we're implementing it for a couple of clients at the moment. And the approach, I'm not sure how much I should talk about this because I'm not really working as a developer there, but the approach is something in the more direction of not doing a full conversion at the same time. Because if you have a site of, more than a few thousand nodes, then it's a lot to go through and to confirm that things are looking okay. And usually you want to do this as a part of a web projects, maybe, where you want to do some larger upgrades on design and all the building blocks, and that, everything will be different anyway. So what we are aiming at then is to use the same content type as we currently have paragraphs on, and we'll make some sort of switch function where we go in and I could show you, we have some demo material of it actually, but I can't show you at the moment. Where you say, now I want to convert this old node into a Gutenberg node. And the minute you do that, data from the paragraphs are merged into a new Gutenberg body field. And you can go through it and do adjustments and tweak it as you would like. Good thing about that is that you basically don't have to do a complete migration path for all kinds of content, as it's so easy to go in and update it and change it. And then the editor can even go back and look at the paragraphs-based node as they choose. They can go back and forth, and then at some point leave it behind.
I think we are at time, but it looks like the next speaker doesn't start right away. I don't know if we actually get kicked out, because the most highest voted question now is, come on, custom blocks. You said you would do that, and we haven't done that yet. So yeah. I think we should share these slides, because the slides walk you through it. Do you think you could talk through that in 3 minutes?
I can go fast.
Go
We're
fast.
supposed to,
Go.
talk more about it, but okay. So Gutenberg comes with a lot of basic components. So if you just stick to them, you'll be fine. For example, a rich text component that is used for inserting text and so on. Other components could be like the image uploader for React and so on, video uploader and so on. But notice that these components, from React itself, they are only used for the editor backend. So the front end that you build when you build your block, that's only HTML. So to get going with it, you need to have some JavaScript knowledge, but as it says here, you don't necessarily need to know React. And actually, our lead developer, Marco, he actually started working with React through working with Gutenberg. And he said it was actually a quite nice way of doing it, just because Gutenberg has some standardized way of setting up blocks that will actually help you learn React as you go. So you only need to know the basics there. So when you're building your first block, you can simply start by copy paste the example block. There's a block. You actually maybe even saw it when I enabled Gutenberg earlier, because it looks like a Drupal module basically. That comes with the Drupal Gutenberg module. You copy that folder into your custom modules folder, and you just rename it to your block name. And after that, like any other module, you just go in there to the config files, and rename the YAML files. Example, but you can see it's highlighted there in the slide. And then you just rename the package JSON to remove the example part, and then you run npm install in that folder. And that's it basically. Now you can just test it, see how it looks, and go in and hack that module. And just play around with it and go through the documentation. And there are the same kind of resources. You'll find a lot of help there on the best practices and how you should build your Gutenberg block UI and so on the WordPress site there. So that's a very short version of it.
Awesome. Good job. So there are more questions, but we're definitely too long now. So, Tony, what is the best way to get a hold of you to ask questions or keep talking about this?
Yeah. I think that best part is probably just try to send me an email, connect on Twitter. You can find us there, and you'll also find some information about that if you go to drupalgutenberg.org, and just throw in a question or say that you're interested. And we would very much like to keep the conversation going. I would say so. So is it me or you? Oh, there we are.
So Andre, add yours, please.
Sorry?
Please add your information so they can talk to you.